If you're a fan of the Persona series, then you must get ready for something that feels both familiar and fresh. Metaphor ReFantazio demo is here with absolutely stunning visuals, dynamic turn-based and real-time gameplay, and a soundtrack that will hook you right into the story. In today's episode, I want to go over a taste of what's to come before the full release in a week's time. Metaphor ReFantazio is definitely looking to be the next must-play JRPG. What's up, Chaotic fam? It's your host CastDTV here, and if you're new here, then this is your chill spot for all things RPGs news, reviews, and guides. And today we're diving into ATLUS' newest Persona-inspired JRPG, Metaphor ReFantazio, which is developed by Studio Zero and published by ATLUS. Now, the Shin Megami Tensei series as a whole has always found ways to evolve over the years, and even the Persona series as well, which is a spin-off of that series in a similar universe. ATLUS has always gave players a nice blend of storytelling, combat, and as well as visuals, to the point their games are just super recognizable between the art styles and even right down to the overall mechanics like the night and day cycle, as well as their combat. I say this because this brings us probably one of the best JRPGs to reach my hands this year, Metaphor ReFantazio. Now, as of writing this script, currently right now, one official review is currently out right now, and it's receiving high scores. And bro, I tell you what, this game demo had me hooked, and this is what absolutely is crazy about it. ATLUS dropped a prologue demo that allows players at least 5 to 6 hours of content to enjoy, to even certify themselves as absolute goats. They allow you to carry your save over to the main game, and I'm in love with the devs allowing players to carry their saves over. Romancing Saga 2 did it, Star Ocean Remake did it, and I'm pretty sure there are a few others out there that done this as well. Please, any other future developers, continue doing this. If you're going to make a demo, at least allow us to carry our save over, especially if it's going to be a lengthy one. If I'm spending an hour, 2 hours, maybe up to 6 hours on your demo, allow us to carry the save over. And especially when the demo is this close to releasing, please let us. But with that little bit of segment out the way, the one thing I do want to talk about is the overall story that the prologue demo sets you in. Now, this is theoretically not really a spoiler because some of this information is available on ATLUS's official website towards the actual game. But you play as an Elda, which is a character you can name yourself, and by God, the racism and prejudice that is centered in this game is pretty deep. And as a black man myself, this one definitely cuts a bit deep, and no, it did not offend me. I've been seeing a lot of things out there on Twitter and social media about how it's offending some folks, but to me, myself personally, I can familiarize myself with the main character. I have suffered my own fair share of prejudice and racism in my own personal life, but it didn't really super cause me oh, this game is absolute trash, I hate this. No, it just made me understand and empathize with the main character. So the story takes place in a kingdom of Ukraine. The anime scene that plays in the very beginning of the game sets the tone by letting us watch the assassination of the king and sets the main antagonist of the game, Luis. Now, the story takes a couple of plot routes. We see the king's assassination from Luis, due to Luis also casting a curse on the prince, which is another thing that has always popped up in front of you, of a young man that is sleeping on top of a pedestal coffin-ish with these thorns wrapping around him. Yes, that man is the young prince to that said king, and currently he is unconscious and not able to wake up from the coma that the curse has placed him under, which basically means no one is able to ascend the throne, which is the entire plan for Luis. Towards the end of the demo, after Luis attempts to declare himself as king, the actual entity, god or king, I'm still very, very confused on who this big ass rock face of a thing is. Basically, he wants a race to see who, through popularity, can actually ascend the throne, which means we need to gain popularity and as well as defeat Luis to hopefully rid the curse from the prince and stop the tyranny of Luis. And all of this is set up from the entire demo. for the past 6 to 7 hours, that is the main mission. You are basically told, rinse and repeat, that this needs to be done. And a lot of the background stuff is told through you through the anime cutscenes. Now, moving on over to the gameplay features you can expect during your first 6 hours. At this point, Metaphor ReFantazio carries some of the game features players can expect from Persona. Now, granted, this game was developed by the same team who worked on Persona 3 to Persona 5. In the Persona series, your characters have these spirits that they call personas, and in Metaphor, we have something very similar called archetypes, which are based on the characters you meet on your journey, and their very own values that they share in their hearts can now summon that said archetype to be able to do something. For an example, your main character, his archetype is a seeker. You also meet Stroll, who has this warrior justice mindset, so it is spawned upon the warrior. Gallica, your fairy, she is essentially not really a healer, but more of a support type. Then you also meet Maria, who is she just likes to heal, and she has this healthy mindset, very child-free type of mindset. So she ends up being the healer, so on and so forth. The game also carries on over the social links, or as they call it, the bond system. Very similar to Persona. By building up the relationships with people, you become stronger in the archetype as well, allowing them to perform stronger moves. The combat in the dungeons is so much fun, and it takes real-time combat and turn-based, and it basically just turn it up just a notch, just a tad bit. So combat only happens when your party is in a dungeon, which you can scavenge dungeons for loot, and we get to the fighting. Now, I did say the combat shares both real-time and turn-based as well. So depending on your strength comparable to the enemy, you can attack them and defeat them without needing to enter turn-based segments. Now, if the enemy is either stronger and or equal strength to you, then you can sneak up on them, attack them with the preemptive strike, and enter the turn-based segment of the game. By doing so, it does cause the enemy to be stunned, and they do lose a turn, so it sets you up for multiple advantage points. I do want to talk a little bit about the UI during the turn-based combat, because oh my god, it's so awesome. It's just beautifully aesthetically pleasing. The way this game just looks with this dark and gritty atmosphere also ties into the overall UI of the game, and I just love when the lore of the game ties into how you maneuver the entire, everything from the way you're attacking, the UI system, swapping, it definitely shares that Persona vibe, and it just really turns it up a notch. Another thing to also note, all enemies do have a weakness to them, whether it's an elemental weakness or a weapon weakness. You can definitely experiment with your moves to really make fights easier. Like I said, if you are familiar with Persona, a lot of this is very straightforward to you. But for anybody who is not familiar with Persona, essentially you can try out different attacks to see what works and what does not work, so you can take full advantage of all the encounters you come across. There are also formations you can move from. There is your front row and a back row. So front row, you basically take full advantage of all of your full-on assaults. Back row allows you to take more of a defensive approach. There's a given boss that you encounter where one of his main attacks only attacks the front row. So if you want, you can move your characters to the back row to avoid that attack, which I really like that the game takes advantage of the formations, allowing you to basically come up with different strategies when attacking different enemies. But I do want to go back to the archetypes for just a little bit. Whichever archetype you utilize, it will help you do more damage and deal elemental damage, which also uses up your MP meter. Other than fighting in the turn-based side of things, you can also view the auras of your enemies and the dungeons to see how strong they are, which will make fighting them easier to see if you just need to do a full-on attack without needing to squad up for turn-based. I love being able to just freely attack mobs without needing to jump into a whole battle. That saves up so much time in battles, and there are no random encounters either, so you can pick and choose whether you want to fight or not. And thanks to the real-time battles, you can really easily kill enemies in 1 to 2 swings just to be able to pick up the extra bit of money and as well as the extra bit of experience points. There are also team attacks as well. Now, when you get further into the demo and you get more archetypes, you learn that you can be able to team up with the given archetypes to unleash these team-based ultimate attacks, which basically mixes up the particular styles of each archetype to perform powerful, awesome cinematic attacks. What's even more badass is the soundtrack. Now, anytime you're fighting, even if it's regular enemies or even bosses, you just hear this badass tracks that are playing in the background, and it literally makes it feel like you're fighting like a final boss of some sorts, but it's really not. But damn, they did not have to go absolutely this hard on this soundtrack. And that's one thing that I love about JRPGs. JRPGs have some of the best soundtracks in gaming like history. There's of course a lot of other games out there like more action-oriented games that have also amazing, like Stellar Blade, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, all of those games and stuff like that. And there's other games that are more laid back that have, but it's just JRPGs just have this way of just making you just want to lock in and really just hone in and just dominate, bro. It just gets me going. It's pretty provocative. If anybody caught that one, let me know in the comment section below. But the cutscenes also add to the overall story the game is trying to tell. Thanks to the full-fledged animated cutscenes the game has in certain moments to further the plot. And then there's in-game cutscenes and the shading of the characters, the voice acting. Bro, it just really makes me want to just binge this game like it's just seasons upon seasons of anime. But going further back into my conversation with you, speaking of the UI, we got to talk about the pause menu. And bro, ATLUS did not have to go this hard for the pause menu. They always go, every Persona game has some form of like good pause menu. Just like, god damn, it looks so goddamn good. I just love the way the font matches and the face of the protagonist as well. Like, it goes back to my earlier point of like the way the game looks, no matter where you're at, whether you're navigating the menu, you're talking to different merchants, you're navigating their tree of things. It all just, I feel like it just fits the overall narrative that the game is trying to tell. And it's now, Metaphor ReFantazio is now looking to be one of my favorite visual style games that I've played in a long time. But also, while traveling in the main city, you can also see what people are saying about the current events that are happening in the world. And also, you can start hearing some of the hateful words that are thrown at the protagonist due to his race. This goes back to the earlier point in this video where people do not like Elders. They find them a lesser tribe and they will make their opinions known. Now, of course, it affects your character in the very beginning, but as your character gets better and better mentally, which I'll talk a little bit about that later, that stuff starts to like brush aside him, and as you start helping out other people, they start to realize that shit, he ain't that bad. And you're right. And it shows a bigger picture about how people look more at the either the color of your skin or whatever race you're from, instead of just like, hey, we are all the same species, you know, just peace and love, baby. That's all we ask for. So like I said, if you guys have any thoughts about that, definitely let me know in the comment section below. How did this affect you? Anything of that nature. But I do want to talk a little bit about the other couple of features that you will be able to do while out of the dungeons. Like, the game takes, of course, the full advantage of the Persona series, which is the day and night cycle. Yes, there are deadlines for missions, so making sure your time management is good. Unlike my dumbass, where towards the end of the prologue, the game gives you 3 extra days to do anything. That once you reach this point, the prologue is currently done, and you get 3 days to do whatever you want. Now, of course, you can spend that 3 days tackling the final dungeon that the demo will allow you to do. But no, what did my dumbass do? I just sat there and I just surveyed the town. I talked to different NPCs. I appraised some stuff. I did a little bit of side questing. I learned a little bit about a couple other the tribes that are also getting oppressed and stuff like that, and receiving also a lot of hate. And you are learning more about yourself, which ties into now the Royal Virtual System. So this is a morality system in a sense that plays in your character. It is based on courage, wisdom, tolerance, eloquence, and imagination. These basically can help improve relationships with people and allow you to do more things throughout your journey. Now, there is one person I do want to talk about, which is seen throughout most of the Persona games, which is Igor, right? So this game has their very own variation of that, of the Velvet Room and Igor. We have, I believe it's pronounced, it says more, or I'm going to say Moray, but basically that character, he lives in a separate reality to the protagonist's world, which is very similar to the Velvet Room in the Persona series. And like, he's very similar to Igor, somebody who has this intriguing background. You want to know a lot about this character, and he basically helps improve the archetypes that you are acquiring. There is also an online mechanic in this game, which is called the Traveler's Voices, which basically uses activities other players have done, or you can even see what squad of archetypes they use to beat a dungeon, just in case if you're having a hard time. Metaphor ReFantazio Prologue was a very lengthy demo, and of course you can carry this onto the main game. I believe I spent close to 6 to 7 hours in this demo, and I have literally only good things to say about this game. I believe Metaphor will definitely take over the month of October when it comes to the JRPG genre, when it releases on October 11th for a nice price of $70. With the current review out now that I mentioned earlier in the video, this game is stated to be close to 80 hours of playtime, and I believe 100 hours for a full completion. This game has plenty of content to fulfill the asking price. I highly recommend anyone, and I mean anyone, to pick this game up. If you never played a JRPG, you need to go hop into this. If you are a seasoned veteran of JRPGs, then you need to hop into this. This game, I have nothing but good things to say about this game. But if you enjoyed today's episode, then I recommend checking out my preview of Romancing Saga 2 Remake, another great JRPG that is also coming out very soon. And make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more chill RPGs, news, reviews, and guides as well. And as always, stay safe out there. And it's been your host, KICTV, here at Chaotic Inc., signing out. Peace.